on. Okay, got it. Yep.
So whoever can see it need to say yes on that, so that I mean they have to okay it. Otherwise, they will not be able to go on.
I think you have unmuted. You have muted some people.
No, sir. I didn't do that.
But William told me that they are muted, so I don't know. You should unmute at your level, and then they can decide what they want to do.
Arvind, can you please see that, because I can't even see the chats. There are chats going on that I can't see.
Let me see.
William,
1 second.
William G is muted.
I've
There is
asked
only
everyone to
1 million.
unmute. I've asked everyone to unmute.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So
All
when you're ready, we can start.
All right. So now everybody can unmute. Yeah.
All right. So with your permission, ICC National Coordinator, India, Deepak Talwar, may I please have called this meeting to order? Would you like to
please do?
sir? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
All right. So this meeting, special meeting on United Nations Peace Day, International Day of Peace, is going live now with friends from all over the world. My first order of day is to speak the most important Rotary matter, which is the 4-way test. So if you would all like to repeat after me, it'll be very, very nice. So the first thing, is it the truth?
The truth.
Is it the truth?
The truth. Is the truth.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it
build
goodwill and
better
better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right, wonderful. Thank you all for repeating. I welcome Chairman of the Rotary Inter-Country Committees Executive Council, Rotarian Mohammad Ghaman. I also welcome the incoming chair for the same, Rotarian Nathalie Hugabert. I hope if I mispronounce anything, please do forgive me. I welcome Rotary International Director 2224, Rotarian Faz Kidwai, Mohammad Faz Kidwai. I also welcome Rotary International Director 23 to 25, Rotarian Anirudh Roy Chaudhary. I also welcome today's speaker, Rotarian Dr. Ira Helfand, very dear friend who has always obliged us with his presence. In fact, he came to India a few years ago for the first peace meeting of the sort, and we are very grateful. I also welcome my colleague from Rotary Action Group for Peace, Dr. Anne Frisch. She's my, I would say, she's actually a motivator for everybody on this earth towards peace. She's the first person I know who got the UN Peace Prize in 2016, and it was wonderful. Very, very inspiring person. And I welcome all the past district governors and district governors who are here. I welcome all the ICC country section heads who are here. Please wave if you can. I also welcome all the ICC members, clubs, and all the fellow Rotarians. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I request PDG Deepak Talwar to please take it forward. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Namrata, for welcoming everybody. So friends, it's a real pleasure to be here at this meeting, which commemorates the International Day of United Nations. And it is right in consonance and with the inter-country committee theme for this year, especially under our leaders, Mohammad Ghaman and Nathalie. And it's a privilege for ICC India to be one of the facilitators along with the worldwide ICC for this commemorative meeting. And we look forward, especially to words of encouragement from our Rotary luminaries, as well as from Dr. Ira Helfand, who will talk to us about the dangers of nuclear war and how close we have come, especially in light of serious wars which are taking place, and all it requires is pressing a few buttons and all our years of progress and development could, go back with a press of few buttons by 50 years or 100 years, because here, if there's a nuclear war, it's not going to specifically damage one or two or three. It will affect the atmosphere, the agriculture, the sunshine, and not to mention the poison which will come. So it's a very serious matter, especially in the times of today. And so, friends, thank you for being here. And even if we, I look at the Rotary area of peace and conflict, and then we look at the nuclear war scenario, we look at the ICC special peace meetings which are taking place. And so it's wonderful to have all of you here in spirit. And do join the inter-country committees, wherever you are in your country, in your district. You can write to me. You can write to whoever is active in the ICC in your part of the world, and let's join hands for a more peaceful world, more to support each other with projects, the end of which is peace and international peace. Thank you. Let's move ahead. May I request our director, Rotary International Director, Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, from Zone 6, to give us his blessings and greetings. If Anirudh is here, I think I saw him. So, Dada, over to you.
Good evening to all my friends present here. Thank you, Deepak, giving me this opportunity. And of course, thank you, Namrata. She's the one, she was extended the invitation to me. And today I'm a part of this initiative and to celebrate today's, International Day of Peace. So, friends, we have here the serving chair, Mohammed Graham, and incoming chair, Natalie of International Committee of Executive Council. And of course, you have some sounds. Please look into the sounds of some sounds.
Yeah, I think Arvind Bhai, please mute people who are, just mute everybody if while the speakers are speaking.
Yeah,
keep me unmuted. Keep me unmuted.
Yeah, then in case the speaker gets muted, they should unmute themselves.
Anirudh, please
Yeah,
unmute
just
yourself.
continue. Yeah, just continue. All our distinguished members are present here in the panel, as well as I would also like to acknowledge the President, Chief Guest, Dr. Ira Helfand, and he is the man who has been in this, the forging ahead for a pretty long time through his own organization, ICANN. And he is today, we are truly privileged to have him today in this important seminar, you can say an important meeting. Friends, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my co-director from District 3271, Faiz Kidwai, and all my distinguished friends present. Friends, today we gathered as a significant day. Let us all reaffirm our commitment to peace, not just as a lofty ideal, but as an urgent necessity for the world's survival. And in opening remark, Deepak has rightly mentioned about this. I would also like to express my gratitude to inter-country committees of India for hosting this crucial event on such an important issue tonight. Friends, as a humanitarian organization, Rotary is actively engaged in the endeavor to provide clean water, air, access to health and education, human rights, clean energy, and skill development. These initiatives are not just noble, they are essential for a better future and to enhance the possibility of creating peace in this world. Friends, amidst all these crucial efforts, the equally pressing need to educate people about the persistent threat of war. It is a stark reality that a large part of our world remains embroiled in the conflicts and armed hostilities. Friends, to understand the danger we face, we must first remember the historical context. The horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serves as a haunting reminders of the devastating power of nuclear weapons. The Cold War era further escalated this threat as nations amassed vast nuclear arsenals. Today, we confront new and alarming developments. North Korea's nuclear program, tensions between nuclear-armed nations, and withdrawal from the crucial arms control agreement have created a precarious global landscape. Moreover, the interconnectedness of our world means that any nuclear conflict would have a far-reaching consequences. It is essential to grasp the profound humanitarian toll of a nuclear war, the immediate loss of life, long-term environmental devastation, and the enduring health effects on the survivors are beyond comprehension. Despite of the grim outlook, of course, we have hope. Through international cooperation and advocacy done by several organizations like United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, Global Zero, and of course, ICANN, I mentioned earlier. Arms control treaties such as Treaty on Provision of Nuclear Weapons are promising steps toward disarmament. Diplomacy and communication remains our best tools for conflict resolution. We must actively support these initiatives. Friends, education also plays a pivotal role here. Knowledge is about devastating consequences of war is fundamental. It is not solely the task of the governments and international organizations alone, but also the individuals and the civil society advocate for a peaceful solution and to raise awareness. By doing so, we can contribute to building more peaceful and just world where resources are allocated for the betterment of humanity, not for its destruction. Friends, today, as a mark of International Peace Day, let us remember that peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of justice, equity, and cooperation. Rotary is the commitment to peace building, stands as a beacon of hope. Together, we must work tirelessly to prevent the catastrophic consequences of nuclear conflict for our generations and those to come. Thank you, my friends, for your attentions. And this made this day inspire us to double our efforts in pursuit of lasting peace. Thank you. I look forward a very constructive meeting here. Thank you, Namrata ji, once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Honored.
Thank you, honored Anuradha Dada. You spoke
Thank
very
you.
well,
Thank
made
you.
wonderful points, which I think we should imbibe strongly. And without much ado, I will request, our director from the fellow country, a very good friend, and also ICC National Coordinator of Pakistan, Director Mohammad Faiz Kidwai Bhai, to enlighten us with his words. Faiz Bhai.
Thank you, Majesty Governor Deepak, and all friends. Very good evening to you all. What a pleasure it is to be with you all today. And I would like to offer my compliments to past President Namrata for initiating not just this program, but the manner she is, has been able to connect the Rotarians, especially across the border between Pakistan and India. I think need to be applauded. My colleague on the board, Director Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, has already shared his thoughts. But let me begin by sharing some thoughts of the Rotary International President, Gordon McNally, who during the current Rotarian magazine has specifically focused on peace and especially related to today, the 21st September. So I'll just quote what he said, and I quote: "The International Day of Peace takes place on 21st September, which is today. The United Nations General Assembly declared this a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace through observing 24 hours of non-violence and ceasefire. It is not enough as people of action to simply avoid making war. If we are to create hope in the world, we must aggressively wage peace. Where can we begin? There are countless armed conflicts around the world, and the global population of displaced people is higher than ever. The opportunities are nearly limitless, but the cycles of violence and hardship seems endless. I unquote. So our president then further advised that we should start small, but must think big. And there is where we need to focus. And the president also mentioned about the role which Rotarians from India and Pakistan are specifically playing with regard to bringing the common people together as well. My dearest friend, brother, Deepak Talwar, we have been working together on various, towards peace and conflict resolution since last more than 25 years. And when I'm saying we have been working together, it is consistently working together. And I would like to offer my compliments to Deepak, especially, that often when I get slowed down, he's the one to push me into it. And that is one of the big reason that whatever we are today, as far as collaborations between common Rotarians are concerned, it is because of the efforts of Deepak. But friends, we are gathered here today to discuss about the nuclear-free world. But I think before that, we need to discuss the reasons and what already has also been shared by Deepak, the numerous conflicts where we are standing today. There's no doubt it is perhaps the worst ever situation during in the century, perhaps. Maybe if we talk of the world wars, it is beyond that as well. And this is a time where we need to put our heads together, and Rotarians can certainly play a lot in this. Just talking of India and Pakistan, I think it's time that we get engaged our youth. We have spent our lives, we have spent our time. Myself and Deepak, we have spent more than 25 years, maybe 30 years of our precious life discussing about peace between India and Pakistan. And a number of friends also have joined us. But it is perhaps for us, it may be time to leave the world. So what legacy are we leaving behind for our youth? So my humble request to each one of my friends present here, especially across the borders and in the world, let us start engaging the youth for this. Let us start engaging the youth to make them realize that future is yours. We, as far as we are concerned, we did try our best, but we haven't succeeded to the extent where we should have gone to. And that is our failure. Now, it is for the future generations to decide whether they want to live in the same style and fashion as we have lived, where both India and Pakistan combined together, they spend more than $85 billion towards defense. For what? Where the poverty today in India is around 380 million, and poverty in Pakistan is around 38% of its population. So at what cost? At the cost of just a fear that both the countries will attack to each other and take over each other? I think those days are gone. None of the countries either want from their inner heart or they're going to do it. I have a very strong relationship with my friends, with my relatives in India. And similarly, my friends from India, they're very strong bonding. We never had any problem. When the common people, whether they're traveling from India to Pakistan or Pakistan to India, where they visit the marketplaces, And when they just introduce themselves that they are, from across the board, they get the VVIP treatment at their places. So where does the problem lies? I think this is the food for thought, which I would like to leave you all to, that let us sincerely discuss and engage our youth. I would like to warn here that if we are not going to engage our youth, I think the gap is going to get longer. Let us engage our youth, let us reach them out, let us engage them, and let us come up with a strategy, ask them to come up with a strategy, adapt their ideas. I am sure they also in their hearts, they are not, nobody would be against each other, but we need to bring them out and ask them to lead from here onwards. And I see no reason why peace is not possible. I think peace is possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Faiz Bhai. Thank you. That was our esteemed RI Director, Mohammad Faiz Kidwai from RI District 3271 in Pakistan. I think a very important point, sir, you have raised is involvement of youth, among other serious concerns which you have raised. And it will be my pleasure, I'm sure Namrata and everybody here, let's make a structured program to engage the youth on a sustained basis. Not random, but sustained. It'll be a very interesting challenge to meet and leave a legacy behind. But that will be the true legacies when we've prepared the youth. Thank you, Faiz Bhai.
Yes, can I say one more sentence here? One more comment,
please,
brother.
Go ahead.
That
go ahead.
This week I'll be initiating a website and a Facebook page on Rotary Youth of Action, and where Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia have already joined. I'll request Deepak that let the youth of India and and I would request my colleague Anirudh Roy to let's work out and let the youth between India and Pakistan also join this platform and let them get connected.
Yeah. Faiz Bhai, we will facilitate this to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Faiz, I'm always there. I'm there.
With support from you, and so let us facilitate that, and this will be done. Consider it done. We are going to work on this. So that's something very positive out of this has come.
Wonderful.
I now request my good friend and a brother and chair of the ICC Inter-Country Committee, Rotarian PDG Mohammad Ghamam, who has given peace as the mantra for the Inter-Country Committee during his term. And I would like him to tell us how he sees the ICC involved more and more in peace efforts. Brother Mohammad, please.
Thank you, Deepak. My dear Rotary family, honorable guests, good evening. On this special day of 21 September, we gather to commemorate the International Day of Peace at the United Nations under the crucial theme of promoting peace and preventing conflicts and wars, especially nuclear wars. I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate ICC India, organizer of this very important event. The Rotary International Director, Aniruddha Roy Chaudhuri, and Mohammad Faiz Kidwai, Deepak Talwar, Namrata, and all the honorable speakers present here. This meeting comes just after the Forum of Peace in the Mediterranean, organized by the Executive Council of the Inter-Country Committee on September 15 in Rome, with the much appreciated participation of the President of Rotary International, Gordon McKinley. It will be followed by another no less important forum for peace in Africa to be organized by the same Executive Council in Cairo on 17, 18, and 19 November. The year 2024 will also begin with the Rotary International Presidential Peace Conference to be held in London in February 9 and 10. Peace is precious for all of us, that we must cherish and promote through our joint work as Rotarians and members of inter-country committees. Without peace, it will not be possible to achieve the levels of trust cooperation and inclusion needed for societies to be resilient to shocks, manage disputes, and adapt to changes in their environment. The team developed today is of crucial importance. The world faces complex challenges, and one of the most formidable threats remains nuclear wars. Thank you for choosing this theme. As you know, Rotary has always been a strong advocate for peace, and we must continue to work tirelessly to prevent such disasters. Let us remember that our mission as Rotarians is to serve humanity, foster global understanding, and build a better future. At the same time, our mission on the inter-country committees is to build bridges, foster peace, and facilitate cooperation among different cultures in support of Rotary International's strategic priorities. We are currently more than 700 national sections of inter-country committees around the world, and we are mobilized to promote peace. We encourage each of you to think about tangible actions we can take to avoid wars and promote peace. This could include outreach projects, diplomatic efforts, educational campaigns, and many other creative initiatives. Together, we can make a meaningful difference. Let us commit ourselves today to redouble our efforts to promote peace and to work together for a more peaceful and secure world. I thank you for your commitment to these noble goals and wish you an inspiring and a productive International Day of Peace. Thank you, my dear friends, my dear family.
Thank you so much, dear friend Mohammed, for reinforcing the importance of having peace in the world and proactive actions by all Rotarians, through the Inter-Country Committee and through Rotary. And sir, we stand with you to facilitate all what you have said in a practical manner. Thank you for reinforcing the whole idea of fostering peace through concrete actions and actions leading to goals. I will now ask Nathalie to speak on, given you a long topic, Nathalie, but you're free to speak. It says here that Rotary ICCs are future of world peace and cooperation. Let's hear dear Nathalie, on this point and any other things she wants to speak on. Nathalie.
Okay. Thank you so much, Deepak. It is really an honor and a pleasure to join you in this meeting. Congratulations also to you, Deepak, for this very nice and necessary initiative. Thanks to the ICC network, we are aware that our friendship is borderless. We see it today by this Zoom meeting, and that we can have a real impact to change the world through our action at humanitarian level, as well professional and youth. Bridging the continents, we connect the different communities, cultures, and languages. That's a real richness. The ICC is an international action on the ground. Our network ensures that our actions are carried out because we can count on our Rotary friends in whom we trust. Together, we certainly are able to contribute to make a better world and build peace by providing access to water, education, and health. By creating economic activities, we contribute to build peace. The ICC, our friendship, our actions demonstrate the strength of Rotary in the world and of our foundation. Together, I'm sure we can give hope. Thank you so much and see you very soon.
Thank you so much, Nathalie, for reinforcing that we need to have constant communication and increase the ICC functioning within these sections, and also involve non-Rotarians and keep making connections. We have 200 countries are here in the world, and if we can connect all of them together, we have a wonderful infrastructure which we will use to meet continuously over time. Because when we meet continuously, we become family, and when we become family, we think of peace. Thank you so much, Natali, for reinforcing. And I think the time has come to listen to our chief guest. And I will request Namrata to introduce Dr. Ira Helfand, and then let's go ahead with that very important address which all of us are waiting to hear. Over to you, Namrata.
Thank you, PDG Deepak. So everybody, we go ahead and let me introduce, so honored to introduce my dear friend, Rotarian Ira Helfand, MD. So that's actually Dr. Ira. Is a member of the International Steering Group of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, that is ICAN, the recipient of the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, he's the only person I know whose organizations have received it twice under his leadership. So proud of you, Dr. Ira. He's also past president of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, that is IPPNW, the founding partner for ICAN, and itself the recipient of the 1985 Nobel Peace Prize. He must have been very young then, but well. He's also co-founder and first president of the Physicians for Social Responsibility, IPPNW's US affiliate. Dr. Helfand is a Rotarian and is a member of WE, Rotary Club District 5000. That itself sounds so good. Thank you so much, Dr. Ira, and may we hear you now.
Namrata, thanks so much for the introduction, and thank you all for making the prevention of nuclear war a key issue on this UN Day of Peace. I think it's really appropriate that we do that as Rotarians, as citizens of the world, because there is no greater threat to peace than the looming danger of nuclear war. I want to share three messages with you this morning. I want to talk to you about why the danger of nuclear war is so great. I'd like to talk a little bit about what's going to happen when we have a nuclear war. And I want to talk about what we can do to prevent nuclear war from happening, and in particular, what we as Rotarians and what Rotary as an organization can do. Let me start by talking about the danger. Back in the 1980s, people all around the world understood the threat posed by nuclear weapons. There was a palpable fear that the United States and the Soviet Union were going to go to war, and people understood that this would be a catastrophe for the entire planet. That knowledge spurred a tremendous amount of political activity, not partisan activity, but political in the good sense, people working to change policy. And as a result of the efforts of literally millions of people across the planet, the policies of the United States and the Soviet Union were changed. In 1983, these two countries were threatening on an almost daily basis to blow each other up. The United States deployed missiles in Europe specifically to give it the capacity to fight and win a war against the Soviet Union. It was an extraordinarily dangerous moment. We almost went to war twice that year. And yet, less than 2 years later, the president of the Soviet Union and the president of the United States joined together and said that nuclear war could never be won and must never be fought. It was a complete reversal of the nuclear policies of both countries, and it was a powerful testament to the role that ordinary citizens, civil society, can play in saving us from the dangers that we face. Now, unfortunately, when they ended the Cold War arms race, they didn't get rid of all the weapons. The danger never went away completely, but we all began to act as though it had. Starting with the end of the Cold War in 1991, we allowed this danger to fade progressively from our mind. And the weapons remained, and now the danger has grown again. Over the last 10 years, tensions have increased in many parts of the world to the point where experts like the former United States Secretary of Defense, William Perry, now feel that the danger of nuclear war is greater than it was at the worst moment of the Cold War. For many reasons. Relations between the United States and Russia are clearly the worst they have been since the end of the Cold War. And with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, with the flood of nuclear threats flowing out of the Kremlin, the possibility of the nuclear war between the United States on the one hand and Russia on the other is real and growing, and something which we must be very concerned about. But it's not the only way that nuclear war could erupt. Relations between the United States and China are the worst they have been, excuse me, since the 1970s. And there's a real possibility for conflict between them over Taiwan or the South China Sea. Relations between India and China are strained to a degree that they have not been in decades. Relations between India and Pakistan, there's fighting almost every day, low-level fighting, but fighting nonetheless on the border in Kashmir. And that low-level conflict could erupt into another war between India and Pakistan, which would almost certainly become very quickly a nuclear war. There's a situation in Korea, which remains unstable and very dangerous. In addition to these various geopolitical flashpoints, there are two other considerations which are driving us towards nuclear war, increasing the danger. First are the advances in cyber technology, which have made it increasingly possible for a terrorist group or a state actor to carry out a cyber attack against the command and control systems of a nuclear armed state, and either directly launch that country's nuclear weapons against that country's will, or perhaps create a false alert and trick the country that is being hacked into deliberately launching its nuclear arsenal against a country that isn't actually attacking it. There's finally the role of the climate crisis. And I think we need to be very cognizant of the way that the climate crisis is increasing the danger of nuclear war. As it progresses over the next decades, and it will, even if we do all the things that we need to do to try to minimize the extent of that crisis, as it progresses, large parts of this planet are going to find it increasingly difficult to support their human population. And this is going to cause increased conflict as people struggle over the resources increasingly scarce that they need for life. It's going to trigger migration on a scale that we have never seen in human history. And if nuclear weapons are on the table as these conflicts unfold, the chance that they are used is going to grow. So for all of these reasons, we need to understand that nuclear war is not something of the past. It is a real and present danger, and it is growing. Let me talk for a few minutes about what is going to happen if nuclear weapons are used. And I think it's important for us to remind ourselves of this. We all know it will be terrible, but we find it very hard to understand how bad a nuclear war will be. Let me start by describing a large-scale war between the United States and Russia, something which is increasingly likely given the war in Ukraine. And I want to start by describing what a modern attack on a large city would look like. Many of us have images in our minds. We've seen pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These are important warnings about the destruction that nuclear weapons can cause. But what we need to understand is that Hiroshima and Nagasaki do not begin to prepare us for the level of devastation that will be caused by modern nuclear weapons. If the US and Russia go to war, it's not going to be one or two relatively small 15 kiloton bombs on one or two cities. It's going to be many bombs on many cities, and most of them are going to be anywhere from 6 to 50 times more powerful than the bombs which destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We don't know the exact targeting strategy of either of these two countries, but the best estimates that we have from material that is in the public domain is that a major city like Moscow or New York or Washington would be targeted with anywhere from 15 to 20 nuclear weapons. Again, each of them 6 to 50 times more powerful than Hiroshima. It is difficult for us to visualize all of these explosions going off. So I'm going to use a model of a single very large bomb, a 20 megaton bomb. The megatonnage in this attack, the amount of explosive power is actually somewhat greater than would probably be targeted at Moscow or New York. The damage I'm going to describe is actually less because you cause more damage by using many weapons spread out over a large area. But the model, I think, gives us a good visual image of what we're talking about. Within 1,000th of a second of the detonation of this bomb, a fireball would form, reaching out for 3 kilometers in every direction, 6 kilometers across. Within this area, temperatures would approach those on the surface of the sun, and everything would be vaporized. Buildings, the trees, the people, the upper level of the earth itself would disappear. To a distance of 6 kilometers in every direction, the explosion would generate winds greater than 1,000 kilometers per hour. Mechanical forces of that nature destroy anything that human beings can build. To a distance of 9 kilometers in every direction, the heat would be so intense that automobiles would melt. And to a distance of 25 kilometers in every direction, the heat would still be so intense that everything flammable would burn. Paper, cloth, wood, plastic, gasoline, heating oil, it would all ignite. Hundreds of thousands of fires, which over the next half hour would coalesce into a giant firestorm, 50 kilometers across. Within this area, the temperature would rise to 800 degrees centigrade. All of the oxygen would be consumed, and every living thing would die. In the case of Moscow, 9 to 12 million people dead in half an hour. In the case of New York, 12 to 15 million people dead in half an hour. And if this were part of a large-scale war between these two countries, this level of destruction would take place at every major city in both countries. And if NATO were drawn into the conflict, most of the great cities in Europe and Canada as well. All told, perhaps 200 to 300 million people dead in an afternoon. In addition, the entire economic infrastructure of all of these countries would be destroyed. There'd be no cell phones, no electric grid, no internet, no food distribution system, no public health system. None of the things that people require to maintain themselves. And in the months following this attack, the vast majority of people who did not die on the first day would also die from starvation, from radiation poisoning, from exposure, from epidemic disease. But this is only what happens in the countries that fight the war. The firestorms started by these bombs would put 150 million tons of soot in the upper atmosphere. That would encircle the entire globe in a matter of days. And it would drop temperatures across the planet, an average of 10 degrees centigrade.
My God.
In the interior regions of North America and Eurasia, the temperatures would drop 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. That is colder than it has been on this planet since the coldest moment of the last ice age 18,000 years ago. And under these conditions, all the ecosystems that have evolved since the end of that ice age would collapse, food production would stop, and the vast majority of the human race would starve to death. A study that was published in August of last year showed that the death toll in the first 2 years from famine would be over 5 billion people, 3/4 of humanity. That same study showed that even a much more limited nuclear war, as might take place, for example, between India and Pakistan, would have global consequences that are absolutely catastrophic. The climate disruption would not be quite as intense. The decline in food production would not be as great. But it would be enough to trigger a famine that in the first 2 years would kill 2 billion people, a quarter of humanity, and destroy civilization as we know it. Now, these horrors that I have just described are not the plot of a grade B movie. This is the danger we are living with every single day that we allow these weapons to continue to exist. And frankly, this is what is going to happen if we don't change what we are currently doing. The good news is that this is not the future that needs to be. Nuclear weapons are not a force of nature. It is not as though an asteroid is coming at this planet and there's nothing that we can do about it. These are little machines. They're about the size of the chairs we're sitting in. We've dismantled 50,000 of them, and we know exactly how to do it. All that is missing is the political will to dismantle the 12,000 that remain. And that is where all of us come in, because we have to create that political will. And we can do it. We've done it once before. We stopped the call to our arms race. The question is whether we will do it or not. Usually when I talk to people, I think a lot of people have a sort of an overwhelming sense of powerlessness. I'm one little person. What can I do about this huge problem? We in Rotary do not have that excuse. We are not alone. We are part of a family of more than 1 million Rotarians across the planet. We are a large and powerful organization, and we have the ability to bring about significant pressure on the governments of the world to do what they must do if we are going to survive. And I think that Rotary needs to, we as Rotarians need to understand that, and Rotary as an organization needs to step up and play the role which it can and must play. There's a resolution before the Council of Resolutions at this time, and I'm going to ask Anne Frisch to give us some of the specifics about that in just a few minutes. This resolution calls on Rotary to endorse the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, to give its support to a treaty which has been adopted by 122 nations, an official treaty of the United Nations, at which Rotary has official standing. It should be utterly non-controversial. The treaty obliges the countries which sign it and ratify it to avoid the use of nuclear weapons, but beyond that, it requires that they not even possess these weapons, that they not develop them, that they not allow them to be stationed on their territory, that they not help finance the development of these weapons. The things that need to happen if we're going to get rid of these weapons and save the world. Now, to some in Rotary, this is appeared controversial, that should Rotary take such a position? I think we need to be very clear that unless the world moves in this direction, all the terrible things that I've described are going to happen. And there is no reason why the world should not move in this direction. But those of us who live in countries which have not yet signed on to the treaty, we need to work within our country to change the policies of our country, to get it to adopt this treaty as well. For Rotary as a global international organization, it is, I think, incumbent that we give support to this treaty. And I hope that this resolution will pass the Council on Resolutions, and I hope that the Rotary trustees will formally adopt this as Rotary policy. I don't know how to frame this without being harsh, but let me say this just as bluntly as it needs to be said. I'm not a diplomat, I'm a doctor. To those who say that this is too political for Rotary to get involved in, I would simply answer, if we don't, when the nuclear war happens, our children are not going to forgive us. Period, full stop. They're not going to buy the argument that this was somehow too political for Rotary to do. They're going to look at us and say, why didn't you save our world? Now, there is a positive side, perhaps, to this terribly desperate situation that we're in. All of us want to do something good with our life. That's why we've joined Rotary, to put service beyond self. We have been given the opportunity to literally save the world. There is absolutely nothing better that anyone can ever do with his or her life. And there's nothing that more clearly would fulfill our obligations as Rotarians to put service before self. And so I urge you all to do what you can to move Rotary in this direction and to bring Rotary's full power to bear in this desperate effort to prevent a nuclear war, not just by adopting this position, which I hope Rotary will, but by putting the enormous resources which Rotary has to help educate the rest of our population about the urgent need to take action. The biggest problem we face right now is that people simply aren't paying attention to the danger of nuclear war. And Rotary, with its vast network, its incredible resources, could do so much to educate people about this. So let us face this dangerous situation, and let us make sure that we do the right thing, that we act with courage and determination, and that we take the steps that need to be taken, which are simple and straightforward, and convince our governments, as we convinced them in the 1980s, that nuclear war is not a solution, that the continued possession of nuclear weapons means that they will be used at some point, and the time has come to eliminate them once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ira. On a, what can I say? It's an extremely, impactful address. And all I can say is there's nothing political about death and destruction. And when we can see it happening, then I think we need to do everything to stop it. And as Rotarians, we have to work on our mindsets and mindsets of the people to give cognizance to what you have just said and start working assiduously and properly to create a structure to dismantle those weapons. I think it's as simple as that. Thank you very much. All I'm saying is that it's something to really think about and do something about it. Namrata, we have some time for questions.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay,
We
now
can unmute. Everybody can be unmuted, or would you like them to raise hands?
They let them raise hands, or Sandan, Arvind, you can unmute. But friends, let there be a question. Let not there be a statement. A specific question you want to ask anybody who's here who has spoken today. Be very crisp and small. Don't be very long. And should be a question. Don't make a statement, please. So that we can get more questions and clear answers from our faculty today and the people who have spoken. Thank you. Arvind.
Yeah, I see a raised hand by Quanta Dawn. So please ask your question.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Please, let her.
Thank you. For anyone that like to address this, there are nearly 1,500 peace organizations in the United States alone with $7 billion funding. How can we consolidate, collaborate, and coordinate a peace movement and bring everyone together rather than fighting for peace here and there in a fragmented fashion? What can we do to motivate them to unite and work together? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure how we best bring all the various groups that are working for peace together. I think our job is to do the work that we each need to do. Rotary, in particular, has a simple task before it. And I think if Rotary does what it needs to do, it's going to be making the contribution which it needs to make. I mean, I would love to see every Rotary club in the world have this as a topic of discussion at least one of its meetings. And I would like to see Rotary International provide the educational materials that would make those sessions worthwhile. And that's something Rotary can do. And the information about what's going to happen if there's a nuclear war, about the reasons why we need to fear that there will be one, Rotary could put together a fantastic presentation from a Rotary perspective about this and share it with all the clubs in the world. And that would be an enormous contribution that Rotary could make.
Thank you, Dr. Ira. Next question, Arvind.
Joanne, can you unmute yourself?
Is she unmuted?
I would like to hear from Anne Frisch with some of the steps that I think we can also be aware of.
Okay. And you want Anne to give you the answer?
Yes.
Anne.
I just put in the chat the resolution from actually clubs that are represented here, Rotary Club of Perry, Rotary Club of Nakusp, Winnipeg, and we Rotary all have resolutions to say, Rotary, please acknowledge the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Many Rotary countries, the countries that have Rotary clubs, are non-nuclear countries, and they're saying we need a voice. And while I was listening to Director Roy and Director Feist, I thought, what if India and Pakistan could just ask their countries to attend as observers the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons? They would be warmly welcomed by my team of 14 observers that are going to be in New York in November. What if India and Pakistan would be observers at the meetings? It's a very reasonable thing that you could move into action. It requires no commitment to do anything on the part of the country. Just go and listen. It's a very exciting meeting. And another Rotarian and I were at the first meeting of states parties. The president from Austria, the president of the first meeting of state parties, said in a public meeting, it would be great if Rotary would support the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. We are being watched by the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons as one organization that's coming not out of the traditional peace community, but out of the business and professional community. We come from a different place, but we end up in the same place. And we can tell our core representatives, please vote yes on this resolution. That would go a long way to getting us to have the conversation. We just need to have the conversation in Rotary. So the way to respond to the it's too political is to say, if it's political, so what? We want better alive than to be political, to back off and to think we can't speak on this because it's too political. So those are my suggestions. I think India and Pakistan Rotarians could actually move their governments to attend all the countries that are not members of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons have been invited. There are 70 members now, with Sri Lanka just ratified, and the Bahamas have signed. So these are really exciting movements toward the non-nuclear countries speaking out and prevailing upon the nuclear countries that India and Pakistan, any nuclear war, whether you initiated it in Pakistan or India or not, is suicide.
Thank you, Anne. We'll certainly look into this seriously along with the Pakistan Rotarians. Let's see what we can come up. I think it's a very welcome suggestion.
Yeah,
Thank you for the same.
RIT Faz got disconnected. He's trying to get it.
Okay. RIT, Aniruddha,
so
I think
he
you
can,
also raised a hand.
we will
You
pick
want
it
to
up.
ask a question or?
I'll ask the question.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
So this is my question to Dr. Ira. With regard to, our peace scholars, we produce 115 peace scholars every year.
Yes.
And they are, after completion of their courses, they're deployed by various governments, NGOs, and they go in for the peace and conflict, mostly the conflict resolution or conflict resolve the conflicts. Now here, on ground, let me be very frank about this. On ground, we don't see much of event activities or the outcome of their initiatives taken place such a longer period of time. So I think we should think on this, this particular program where we are pumping a lot of resources. So what is your suggestion, Dr. Ira, in this front? Because we are investing that produce 115 every year. And on the ground, we are not, getting what kind of a results there are. Of course, they are definitely given the result. But on ground, we can't see. But I think how we can engage them more seriously to the, that suggestion you have made it towards the peace treaty for declare arsenal of weapons. So I would like to have your suggestion.
Well, I mean, some of the peace scholars have done some very important work around nuclear disarmament. Asha Asakan, who is a former peace scholar, has written a number of really important articles over the last year about the need to get rid of nuclear weapons and about various aspects of the nuclear danger, for one example. But I think it would be appropriate to sort of perhaps make this a theme of the Peace Scholars program, that they be specifically encouraged to engage in public education after they complete their studies about the medical consequences of nuclear war. That's one of the resources that Rotary could bring to bear, and it would be a useful one. I think Rotary, in terms of reaching large numbers of people quickly, it would be even more valuable if Rotary prepared educational materials for Rotarians to use both in their clubs and in their communities. I mean, this is a network that could be educating literally millions of people across the planet every month about the urgent need to get rid of nuclear weapons if it chose to do that. And that's the kind of educational work that we should do as part of our peace building. So that would be the thing that I would really encourage Rotary to look at.
Thank you, Doctor.
Dr.
Ira? Okay. Yes. Is he on?
Unmute yourself.
Unmuted? Maybe you can unmute him. Are you unmuted, Dalip?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Dr. Ira has given us a very lucid explanation of the dire consequences of a nuclear war, and has also mentioned that the threat of a nuclear war is imminent. I don't know, but my question to you is, in such circumstances, shouldn't we be, as Rotarians, presenting a united front to discuss this on a national and international level and bring this with the weight of Rotary to the United Nations, make our case to the United Nations, and shouldn't the Rotary be making it a priority cause? It doesn't seem to me very plausible to put this on the long track and say we're all going to do a little bit in our little parts of the world if the threat is so imminent. That's my question.
Well, I totally agree with that assessment. I think Rotary needs to speak clearly and loudly with its authoritative voice, and it can do that, and it should do that. When I speak about Rotary working locally, I think that's part of what Rotary should be doing as well. It's not alone enough for Rotary to make a strong statement as an organization internationally, although that's critically important. But in addition to that, Rotary can also be mobilizing support in all the different countries where political support needs to be built through our network of Rotary clubs. But absolutely, I mean, Rotary is behind the curve on this. The United Nations is very clear that this treaty needs to move forward. Our sister NGO at the UN, the International Committee of the Red Cross, has been a profoundly active champion for this treaty. It is time for Rotary to do its part as well. And I think that the starting point would be a clear statement from Rotary that it supports the treaty, and a statement perhaps delivered by our representative at the UN.
And how do we go about that?
Well,
How do we make this a priority of the Rotary? How do we go about it?
there is the resolution before the Council on Resolutions. And then it will ultimately be the decision of the Rotary International Board of Directors. And I think that it is important for all of us to raise our voices loudly within the council, to get our representatives there, not only to vote for the resolution, but to speak up loudly for it. I have to say that over the last couple of years, there has been an attempt to block this resolution. It has been brought forward twice before. Each time when the resolution was offered, at the bottom of the resolution, there was a statement that Rotary does not possess the expertise to take a position on this issue. That statement was added to the resolution without any attribution, and it was added in such a way that it implied that it was part of the resolution itself. In fact, Rotary does have the expertise to make a determination that we shouldn't have a nuclear war and that we need to get rid of nuclear weapons. And I think that we need to be very, we need to raise, those of us who understand this need to raise our voices clearly and loudly, and not allow whoever it was that put that statement on the resolution to carry out that kind of an effort to block this from going forward.
Thank you, Doctor. We can't allow anybody to beg the question. I understand. Yeah, go ahead, Arvind. Anybody else?
KDG Dr.
We have
Sushil Khurana?
time for just one more connection, one more
I've got
question. Yes,
two
just
more
last
after
question.
Yeah,
Dr.
two
Khurana.
more.
So-
I think let's keep it short, then we can have all three, but no more because
Yeah, no more.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel I am Dr. Khurana from District 3011. So my question is that we have been talking for so many years to ban the plastic to improve our environment. And we have been, why can't we stop the production of the single-use plastics? Similarly, why involve, we keep on talking to have the peace treaty, to involve the countries all through the world and to sign this treaty of no nuclear proliferation. Why can't we just collect few countries which produce the nuclear weapon and convince them not to produce it? The matter will stop there and then. That's my question.
I think that's exactly what we need to do. We need to convince these countries that they need to get rid of their nuclear weapons, and we need to help them understand that it is in their own self-interest to do that. No one of these countries is going to benefit if there's a nuclear war. And they really, literally do not understand that. I mean, it's quite shocking, but when you talk to the leadership of the nuclear armed countries, they frequently exhibit an extraordinary degree of ignorance about what's going to actually happen if the weapons are used. And so that's part of our job, is to help them understand that. And, you know, one other thing somebody put in the chat, which I do want to emphasize, Rotary has already taken one very important step to try to end the nuclear era. It has divested itself from companies that produce nuclear weapons, and therefore it clearly has taken a position that nuclear weapons should be eliminated. But that was done kind of quietly. It needs to be very vocal and very visible in its support for the effort to get rid of nuclear weapons. And Richard Denton, who has his hand up, I think next, was largely responsible for the effort to get Rotary to divest. And so thank you, Richard, for that great work that you've done.
Okay. The next question is from PDG Dr. Richard Denton. Dr. Richard, can you unmute yourself?
Thank you very much. And thank you, Ira, for being here and all your excellent comments. One of the feelings is that what we need to do is to educate our fellow Rotarians. One is currently we have a program where we are working with a World Beyond War, which is a mutual partner with Rotary on a program called Ending War 101. How can we get more Rotarians to use that 6-hour course and partake of it? And then a second question, I'm from Canada, and as you know, India and Canada are currently having a little squabble. They just closed down our visa applications. I'm coming to India on a Rotary Friendship Exchange. So again, does Canada and India have an ICC?
And again, how can we diffuse this problem?
So you have asked two questions. So let me ask the second one since I'm online right now. Yes, India and Canada do have an ICC, and we can send you the details that you require for contacting. That is what I would like to say at this moment.
But please do.
And then I would like Dr. Ira to answer his first question.
I think in terms of getting more people to take advantage of the Ending War 101 curriculum, we just need to bring it to people's attention. I've seen a presentation about it. I haven't taken the whole course yet. It really seems to be an excellent program. It talks about the whole question of war, not just nuclear war. And I think it's a useful thing. But I don't think it's a substitute for us taking very direct action about the imminent threat of nuclear war today. And so I think it's something that we would want to publicize and to the Rotary Network and perhaps make part of our overall educational effort about nuclear war.
Thank you, Dr. Ira. I think we can stop now. May I request
There's one last
Governor?
question. One last question from Rotary Maria delivery.
Okay, we'll concede that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arvind.
Rotary Maria, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, good evening to all of you. Thankful for Deepak for organizing all this exceptional event, and so happy of hearing all these inspired. Just few words. All people knows, we know, we demonstrate, we speak always about peace, 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 peace. Rotary inspire us for peace. We are sure that our affair is that we live under a bottom. So I would like to say that we must be careful. We have only one weapon, our vote, because if the ministers or the secretaries of the states have our partners or have industries with weapons, normally we will have the war preparing for peace. This is the tale. We are preparing for peace, making war. Okay, thank you so much for this excellent night. Thank you.
Thank you for making I think a statement leading to commitment for peace and against war. I can now request past District Governor Sushil Khurana to propose a vote of thanks before I adjourn. Sushilji?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Sushil Khurana from District 3011, and I am the ICC coordinator for India-Israel. First of all, I'd like to put on record my thanks to the ICC National Coordinator India, past District Governor Deepak Talwar, and Section Head India ICC, past President Namrata Suri for Canada, Russia, and Turkey for organizing this wonderful interactive meeting today on such appropriate occasions. On behalf of the Inter-Country Committee India, I will like to thank Rotarian Dr. Ira Helfand, the Chief Speaker of the day, who has really enlightened us with so many facts and figures which we were not aware of. Our thanks to our dear friend, Rotary International Director, Rotarian Mohammad Faiz Kadwai, for sparing his time, and our thanks to RI Director, Rotarian Anurag Rai Chaudhary, for sharing their views. Both of them, despite being so busy into Rotary affairs, they have been kind enough to accede to our request and be with us on this occasion. Our thanks to the Rotary Inter-Country Committee Executive Council Rotarian Mohammad Ghaman, who has enlightened us what has been going on, and our thanks to the incoming chairperson of the Rotary ICC Committee Executive, Natalia Huzet, and above all, our thanks to all our fellow Rotarians, past governors, and all other participants who have spared their valuable time, and we had such a wonderful interactive meetings. We look forward to more such meetings in the near future. Thank you very much for organizing this once again today. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Thank Thank you. And I think,
Should
Namrata,
we keep
we
it
can-
open for 5 minutes for fellowship if anybody wants to talk to each other?
I think now this has been such a serious talk, Namrata, that I
Yeah.
think we need to reflect on what has been said. And I think one, we can promise each other to keep in touch and
Yes.
come up with some action points.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
how we can start this movement to achieve what Dr. Ira has, proposed, and we should agree. Let's think deeply. So with this thing, I think if we adjourn the meeting right now, let's leave it on a
Wonderful, sir.
serious note.
Thank you so much,
Because
and
this is
right
a
on
very
time.
serious matter.
8:15 IST
Absolutely.
on time. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a wonderful
Absolutely.
Bye, have a
So,
nice day.
friends,
Thanks, everyone.
I adjourn the meeting, and good evening, good morning. Wish you all the best for whatever time is going to come. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, friends. The
Okay.
meeting stands
Thank you
adjourned.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let